set.
All set. Welcome to the October 1st, 2024 Greytown Council meeting. This meeting is being held in person and online. People may join the meeting remotely using the link in the heading of the agenda. Or if they're watching the meeting live online, they can call during public comment using the phone number also on the meeting heading, meeting agenda heading. Opportunities for public comment will occur as we go through the agenda. We'll start with roll call. Mike.
Here.
Krista.
Present.
Ann.
Present.
I'm also present. Dan McGuire, and to my right is our town manager, Mike Foley. We are down a member, but soon, hopefully, we have, Mike mentioned, we have 3 applications so far, so that's good news. Will you all stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I will take a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Krista, second Ann. Are there any adjustments to the minutes?
I have some.
Why don't you jump right in?
Okay. I mean, there are a bunch of small ones, like a little typos and stuff. I think maybe the easiest thing, none of it really changes the substance of, it's on page 4, council correspondence, my report.
Yep.
So I don't know if you want me to read what I would substitute in there, or whether I should just send it to Britt, or...
If you want to send them to me, and
to-
Britt and I will work on making the corrections if the council wants to accept them.
Yeah, I think we can do that. The other thing that I was thinking about, we used to have a consent agenda, if you remember, once upon a time. And the other thing I thought of we should probably be doing is when we correct the minutes, we should put them on the next meeting's consent agenda, which will just automatically pass unless someone still has an issue with them, just to formally button that process up. But I don't think you have to go through them all right now, Ann, unless you
Yeah,
want to.
They're just like proofreading type.
Yeah, mostly, yeah.
Yep.
And some corrections just to make it make more sense, but nothing major.
Okay. Anyone else? I just had one little one. For the approval of the minutes, the motion's there, but it doesn't say, it was done by unanimous consent, but it doesn't say who made the motion and who seconded it.
I think if I recall that meeting, you didn't take a motion for that one, but we can double check.
Okay. I may have made that mistake myself.
And then in the future, if you guys observe these errors in advance, if you could get them to us at least today, we could revise them and bring a corrected set of minutes for everyone to look at with those corrections.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd be able to promise I'd always be able to get them to you myself if I found any, but I think there isn't anything that's like time sensitive about them, so that if they just went on a consent agenda for the next meeting, I think that would move them through quick enough, but I don't know how others feel about that. But
I don't have strong feelings. I
Any
mean,
thoughts?
I'm usually looking at these the day of the meeting,
Yeah,
so
that's what I think.
I don't know if I would get them to you in advance enough to
Yeah,
make changes ahead of time, but.
okay. Well, we can sort that out later, but, all right, moving on to, with Ann's changes, Krista's motion, and Ann has some changes to be made. You're all set, Mike?
I'm all set, yeah.
Okay. We'll vote then. Mike?
Yes.
Krista?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. All right, public comment for non-agenda items.
We had the report from the manager and the council communication.
Yeah, we do. I got things out of order. Yep, we'll go ahead, we'll do that. We'll stick
And if
to
you
the
want to go
agenda.
before me, I can defer.
No, that's fine. We'll wait to make a change if we do.
I just have a brief report today. At our next meeting, I mentioned before the meeting, I shared that we'll be taking up some wholesale changes to the parking ordinance that you had asked me to look into when we made a slight change to Seagull Drive. And so we'll be considering those. And also as part of the town manager's report, our friends from the United Way of Greater Portland will be here to talk about some demographic data that they've been studying for the region and Gray specifically. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention is that absentee voting has begun here at Town Hall. So we encourage folks to come in anytime during Town Hall hours. You can vote in person. If you want to request a ballot to be sent somewhere, those requests can be submitted online to the state's website as well. Our clerk's office is very busy processing, and we anticipate this to be probably the largest voter turnout in recent history. So we want to ensure that we give people an efficient way to vote. So if you want to vote in advance, otherwise we expect it to be very busy on Election Day itself. And on Election Day, I'll note we'll be posting soon, Town Hall will be closed in its entirety. We typically just close the clerk's office, but we'll be asking all staff to be all hands on deck to help with all aspects of the election process, both the internal voting as well as traffic and parking management and things of that nature to help ensure that we have a smooth Election Day. And that's all I have.
Very good. Council communications, report from me. I had a email exchange with Fran Monroe about comments that were made at our last workshop concerning the wellhead zones. I think I shared my response with everybody here. Basically, I think we all share the same concern. Just to be clear for people out there, there haven't been any proposed changes to the wellhead zones at this point in time. Over the years, there has been some conversation about aligning lot lines, property lines with the wellhead zones, because right now the wellhead zone cuts through pieces of property, and it has been confusing over the years for some folks to try and understand how that impacts their property, but there hasn't been any concrete changes. And as with everything else involved in the zoning changes, there'll be lots of opportunity for public input when we get to that point. I attended the Maine Alliance for Road Associations conference last Saturday. There were speakers there from the Maine Department of Transportation, some legal folks, and also legislative lobbyist, I guess, from Mara, who's been working at the State House. The legislature sort of reconvened the Abandoned and Discontinued Roads Committee to look at state statute as it applies to private roads and public easement roads. State statute is littered with lots of different labels. None of them are particularly well defined, and they've sort of been used, the same label's been used for different reasons in different places. So they're really looking to kind of untie all that knot. So that was very interesting. We have, I think I mentioned before, Michael told me we have 3 applications for the town council seat that Matthew vacated, so that's nice. I also received a petition. It hasn't been signed by anyone yet. That actually got from Mike Johnson. That has to do with the town council and the way the council does business and the manager's relationship to the council. I don't know if this is even active out there, but these are all issues that we've kind of addressed before, so I'm not really doing anything with it until somebody hands me something more formal. And that's all I have for my report. For council communications, why don't we start with you, Ann?
I'm sorry, well, me? Yeah. Okay. So the Community Television Advisory Committee met, and this was subsequent to our last council meeting. And there was unanimous agreement there, including from Kyle, that we should not mothball this committee, which is kind of where the council landed at our last meeting. And we have some language we can share with you when it comes time to vote on this. I just wanted to give you a heads up that we're proposing to reduce the membership to 3 from 7, which will, I think, take care of our quorum problem, and make a few other sort of minor edits. And we had always envisioned that this committee could meet quarterly, and I think that's what it'll start doing instead. So with those changes, it seems reasonable to continue, at least for the foreseeable future. We can talk about that later. But Resiliency met, had their monthly meeting. Cumberland County Soil and Water Conservation District was there with Lake Association reps. And we came to agreement on how to manage the watershed management plan work. The ultimate goal is to develop a set of priorities for the town in watershed management, like which lakes and streams are the most vulnerable, for example, and how do we address them? What do we want to do for them? We established a working group for that, which will include Mike Thomas, our town engineer and project manager. We also discussed the work on the proposed phosphorus ordinance and point system. Haven't started working on that yet. We have our first quarterly report under the CAG, the Community Action Grant, coming due this month, and I'll work with Michael to prepare and submit it. It's fine if it's brief. We just got authorization to proceed last month. Vision Zero, the advisory committee met for the final time to review their action plan, the draft action plan. I suggested some edits that were well received, and also circulated to Michael and Mike Thomas, and I think to Doug. And so GPCOG is going to submit the completed plan to U.S. Department of Transportation once the GPCOG board has signed off on it. So that was a good process, and I was pleased to be part of it. And I really thank GPCOG for taking the lead on all this, including the grant application that included Gray. The VTP, if you missed it, we had a workshop earlier. You can go and watch it. Our consultants, the principal group, presented the plans for the village redesign with a particular focus on the 2 main intersections. And I just want to reiterate that the design that we've arrived at went through quite a number of iterations, but fundamentally is based on the 2020 comprehensive plan that was approved overwhelmingly by voters. It holds open the potential for moving utilities underground. That's a whole other conversation. A decision on that has not been made. It's a very expensive decision. But I'm really excited about the design. I think it will improve bike ped accessibility in the village, which will be good for residents as well as for businesses, and while also allowing traffic to move through the village, although at lower speeds. Anyway, stay tuned for that. That information should be up on the website soon if it's not already. The slides that were shared that show in detail the differences between what our current reality is and what we are envisioning.
It's a part of tonight's
Packet.
workshop packet, so
Right.
people can find it there.
They can find it, yeah, that's right, but I was also thinking about the VTP website.
Yep.
Specifically, yeah. All right, so and just under the Libby Hill Road Public Safety Project, that was a proposal that we submitted to, for congressionally directed spending, and were awarded for adding sidewalks to Libby Hill Road, a secondary means of ingress and egress from behind the high school out to Route 26, and a crosswalk across Route 26. We were awarded that, but it's taken some time for the Department of Housing and Urban Development, which is our, the federal agency under which we'll be working to move this along, but I think it's finally getting going. So I'm really grateful to Kristen Muzinski, our town planner, for stepping up and taking on coordinating the implementation of this grant, and I think it's going to be a huge bonus once this all gets done. So we'll keep you updated on that. And in terms of correspondence, the only correspondence I received was an email from a resident regarding the Avesta Housing Project and street trees, and I think all of you got that same email.
Was there any kind of a timeline on the Libby Hill
No, I mean, I think these, working with the federal government's always kind of glacial, and, but the next step is for us to set up our account in their payment system, the DRGR system. And so she's got the login now to do that, and then the next step after that, I think, is to do there's a particular kind of environmental review that HUD requires. It's NEPA, and it looks at a whole range of things like historic preservation and wetlands and all kinds of stuff. And so, but they've assigned a historic preservation officer to us for this project, and so she'll be working with them to figure out how to complete that. And then I guess I'm really grateful also to have Mike Thomas on board. I'm hoping that'll save us some money in terms of engineering design, at least some of it, and with project management. So we'll just have to see how this goes forward. When I budgeted, I wrote this proposal, and when I came up with a budget, I used real numbers wherever I could, but I also doubled them, to try to plan for increases, and I'm not, we'll just see how well I did in estimating.
Thank you very much. Krista?
Sure. Only correspondence I had was a conversation with a resident about a recent statistical revaluation and what that might have for impacts on tax assessments. And then GPCOG Executive Committee is scheduled to meet again on October 15th. And OAC is looking to schedule some meetings. Doug Webster said he had an email he was going to be sending about that shortly. And the Blueberry Festival Committee did meet on September 23rd, but I mixed up the date and time and was unfortunately not present. So I know they met, but I don't have an update for that, but we can get you an update when they meet again.
Great.
Yep.
Is that it?
Yep, that's all.
Thank you.
Yeah, so for correspondence, I sent you the one that
Yep.
I saw, and then I did get another letter. Somebody sent it to my personal email address. I've been trying all day to forward it, and it's not going to the town. I don't know why. So I will print that off and give it to everybody so they can see it. There was probably 15 different comments and questions on there. So I think it's just easier if I just give everybody a copy of it. And like I said, I've been trying to forward it, and I don't know why it's not moving, why it's not being forwarded. And then my only meeting, I couldn't log on last week because I was out of town. And by the time I finally got the computer working, they had already ended the meeting. So, it wasn't a very long meeting. So,
All right. Thank you very much. The planning board met recently and gave preliminary approval to the subdivision on Mayall Road. The zoning board of appeals also met and talked primarily about their own process. They are interested in doing some more training in the coming year, which I think is a great thing. They're looking to incorporate discussions about the ordinances and for zoning and their particular focus into their regular meetings. So if they don't have anything scheduled for that night, they'll still continue to meet, but they'll work on ordinances, which I think is a great thing for them to do. So I appreciate everybody's time there. We have just enough planning board members to have a planning board. So if there's anyone out there that is interested in joining the planning board, it's not as scary a monster as it sounds, and there's plenty of support on the planning board for anybody who's willing to step up and help out. I think that pretty much, I did have a conversation with a citizen who inquired about the dirt roads that the town owns, and that came as a real puzzle to me because I didn't think the town had any, but it comes to find out that we do have some responsibility for really small stretches of several roads, less than a mile altogether. But I forwarded that information on to them and learned something that I didn't know before.
I didn't know that
I didn't know
either.
that either.
So there we are. And I think that's it for our committee reports.
Can I just ask a question of Michael?
Certainly.
Could you just give us an update on the progress of the Pennell playing field, the septic and everything?
The septic one is still ongoing, and they hopefully be wrapping that up in the coming weeks, and enough to be able to get grass growing before the winter sets in. And then the basketball court is moving very quickly, and so we're making tremendous progress with the favorable weather that we've been having. So hopefully that will be done within the next 2 to 3 weeks, and we may not have a time where we're without a basketball court. So that will be hopefully, if weather continues to cooperate, something that will be done soon.
Great, thank you.
Moving on then to public comments on non-agenda items. Limit 3 minutes per person. Citizens have the right and are encouraged to speak at our meetings. At this time, people may speak about items that are not on this agenda. Public comment on the agenda, public comment for items that are on the agenda will be heard later in the meeting. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. The chair may grant 3 additional minutes at their discretion, and additional comments are welcome at the end of this meeting prior to the time we adjourn. Is there anyone here for public comment on non-agenda items? Please step forward. State your name and where you live. And
My name is Colleen Strickler, and I live in New Gloucester. I am a candidate for the Maine legislature, so if this is not an appropriate thing to talk about, let me know.
it's not on our agenda, so go right ahead.
Go right ahead.
Fantastic.
Your 3 minutes are yours.
Okay. So I am a first-time candidate for the Maine legislature, District 104, to represent New Gloucester and part of Gray. My family moved to Gray in the early 70s and then to New Gloucester in 1976. My parents, James and Marley Carter, my oldest sister Maureen, and my younger brother James and I, well, my parents didn't graduate from here. They were my parents. My brother and sister and I all graduated from Gray New Gloucester High School. And my kids went through Gray New Gloucester as well. My family hosted an exchange student from Norway, and my siblings and I were each exchange students as well. My sister went to Sweden, and my brother and I went to Germany, though not at the same time. Hosting an exchange student and being an exchange student taught me that no matter where we come from, no matter how different we are, we all want similar things: to take care of our families, get a good education, live in a safe home, and have autonomy to make decisions for our lives. I graduated from the University of Maine. I was a team manager for several Destination Imagination teams at Gray New Gloucester, middle and high school. 2 of those teams went on to global finals in Tennessee. I am a current member of the New Gloucester Select Board, a former member of the New Gloucester Library Board of Trustees. My dad is from Indiana, where his family was very involved in Republican politics. My mom's family is from Connecticut, and they were very involved in Democratic politics. So as a kid, my siblings and I heard both sides of every issue. We learned how to have civil debate, sometimes, and that sometimes the best solution to a problem, was, I had this printed out, but I left it at home, was to work with people who have differing opinions and come up with a solution that everybody can live with. I work hard to listen to all sides of issues, and I consider how my decisions impact folks like my parents and my kids before I cast a vote. This is my first time running for state office, and I have enjoyed talking with folks in Gray New Gloucester as I've been out knocking on doors, including some of yours. I think I've knocked on about 1,200 so far, but I will continue to be out most days between now and November 5th. And if anybody would like to contact me to chat about an issue or want to know more about me, they should feel free to reach out from my website, colleenstrickler.me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, don't see anything online, do you?
Nope,
So there's
there's
nothing
nobody
there,
online.
so I think we can move on. We have no old business, so we'll move into new business. The first order that we have, you'll find the motion on packet page 8. Approving the 2024-2027 collective bargaining agreement with the Gray Firefighters Union. Be ordered that the Gray Town Council hereby authorizes the town manager to sign the 2024-2027 collective bargaining agreement for the town of Gray with the Gray Firefighters Union, IAFF Local 5007, for a period of 3 years as outlined in the attached exhibits. This is the first and final reading, October 1st, 2024. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Kirsta, seconded by Ann. Thank you. And Krista, since you moved it, oh, well, did you want to?
I was going to introduce the item if I may. If
Sure.
not, we can,
Yep, no, go ahead.
is there a procedural matter?
I was going to let the person who made the motion speak first, but
Sure,
if
no,
there's
that's fine.
questions,
That's fine. I'll defer.
do you have any?
I just wanted to introduce the item.
Yeah,
Yeah, I had a couple more detailed questions from the content we read, so I don't know, would it be more helpful to have an overview?
yeah,
before
if you
I-
want to, go
Yeah,
ahead, Michael, if that
yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to give an overview of this item. This is a request to authorize myself to sign the collective bargaining agreement, also referred to as the CBA, for the town of Gray with the Gray Firefighters Union for a period of 3 years, effective July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2027, in accordance with the terms of the agreement that's enclosed in the packet, and I'll further describe here. The town of Gray first organized the Gray Firefighters Union in 2017 with their first CBA in 2018 and subsequent agreements following. The current agreement expired on June 30th, 2024, and following minimal meetings with union representation, we quickly reached a tentative agreement with the union representatives. The membership met on September 12th and reported a unanimous approval of eligible members voting in ratification of this agreement. As previously been described and discussed, which has previously been discussed with the town council, wage rates in our labor market and similar sized departments have risen significantly in recent years, especially for public safety personnel. To effectively attract and retain high quality staff for these critical roles, it's crucial that our wages remain competitive. And our wage comparisons in preparation for labor contract negotiations revealed that Gray's starting pay is 5 to 15% below the average starting pay for similarly skilled positions in our market. This gap also grows for longevity, which we hope to recognize and implement as part of this new wage scale and agreement. The contract includes the following wage adjustments for all employees. On 1/1 of 2025, we are implementing market adjustments, and those are funded through current vacant positions within the department. And July 1st of 2025, we are recommending a 3% wage adjustment, and July 1st of 2026, a 3% wage adjustment. The decision to implement these wage adjustments is aimed at maintaining our competitiveness, aligning our wages with industry benchmarks, retaining our valuable employees, and showcasing our unwavering commitment to our workforce amidst economic uncertainties. Additionally, there have been some cleanup of formatting and grammar, ensuring consistency in fonts, numbering, and position titles. Outdated language that is no longer relevant has been removed. Key updates include additions to holidays with the addition of Juneteenth as a recognized holiday, holiday pay adjustments. Under leave, we've added the addition of restricted duty to support employees in their recovery from an injury, ensuring they can continue to contribute to the organization while maintaining their temporary limitations. We've also introduced a maternity-paternity leave provision, providing an additional 42 hours of paid sick time upon the birth, adoption, or fostering of a child. For hours of work and overtime, we've made changes to ensure the regular work week is defined as an average 42 hours with a standard 24-hour shift schedule. And then overtime will be paid at 1.5 times the hourly rate for hours worked over 96 hours in a 14-day cycle. Forced overtime on holidays will be paid at double time, and off-duty hours and special details will be properly compensated under this new agreement. Also under employee benefits, additional training will be properly compensated and made available to staff. And then we incorporated a previous agreement that the town had with the union regarding the Maine Public Employees Retirement System special plan that was adopted, and the retirement options are outlined within that plan. So as part in the wages section, we have recognition of employment longevity and introduction of a lateral entry provision to promote hiring of experienced staff. And we've increased the officer stipends for lieutenants and captains, as well as the acting officer stipend for designated shifts. And implementation of this new wage scale, which is provided under the attached appendix, is included as well. We highly recommend proceeding with this agreement. We believe these changes will enhance our working conditions, provide better benefits, and ensure a fair and equitable work environment for all members. Happy to answer any questions members of the town council might have.
Okay, thank you. Krista?
Thanks, Mike. So I guess the first question I had was just some curiosity around the standard hour shift. I know it says now that we're just having 24-hour shift schedule, and looking at the document from the last collective bargaining agreement, I guess there was a 12-hour shift, and I'm just wondering what the rationale was for eliminating that.
Yeah, at one time they had a 12-hour shift. I think they moved away from using it a number of years ago. Chief Elkinick is here, as well as union representation, Rick Dunbar. Chief, would you be able to speak to when you guys stopped using that, the 12-hour shift?
The full-time people that we have we're speaking to are 24-hour shifts. We do have 12-hour shifts, but those are for per diems.
Okay.
A per diem can take back-to-back 12s for 24-hour shifts if that's available, but the full-time employees work 24s.
Okay, and that's just kind of been standard practice for a while, and it just wasn't reflected in this
Correct.
agreement? Okay, that's helpful. I guess the only other question I had actually wasn't a change. On the sick leave policy, which was under, on packet page 28, which is Article 13, we have a payout that's noted for 360 hours. And about a year ago, we eliminated that payout for regular employees. And I'm not saying we need to, I know this has already been negotiated, and I'm not saying we need to shift this content now, but ideally moving forward, I would like the sick time policy to align with our, the payout that we've established, or the lack of a payout rather, for regular employees, because it has been identified as a liability from our auditors in the past.
So when we presented the personnel policy changes,
Yeah.
We're still digging into that.
Okay.
The HR director was here at the time, and he doesn't recall it being as described. And so he's trying to dig up the old legal reviews and responses to that. And we're also trying to provide information. As part of a recent conference I attended, I learned about conversions from various time offs to paid time off. So you basically combine it all into a lower level bank. I think the outline that the auditors have presented in the past was a liability that wasn't budgeted for. And so I think we, as part of the budget, we budgeted for under separation pay to better plan for if we were to have someone separate the town's employment that had a lot of time on the books. And so I think it is a liability that the town needs to identify. But we didn't negotiate that with the union.
No, I recognize that was not
because that's a
change.
separate agreement.
Yes,
Yeah.
I just wanted to raise it because it's in here and it's very different than I think our expectation for the personnel policy. I understand you're digging into the minutia of what was actually agreed upon, but just going forward, I wanted to highlight that.
It is the council's intent to eliminate that, and the council at the time did eliminate that.
Right, we could go back and
We'll have
workshops.
to, we'll have to
and-
put that together.
Yeah, it's something it hasn't been a priority, so our HR director is going to work on it when we deal with some of the other more pressing matters and bring that back to you guys to consider.
I guess the concern would be, are we still paying that out then? Or-
Right.
Well, I think from what you described, the intent was for employees after a certain date was when it applied. Wasn't that correct?
It was outlined in the policy. It's like if you had a certain tenure by that date, then you were still going to receive the payout. But if you did not have that tenure, you would not. But
So I
again,
wasn't
that's
here-
separate from this
Yeah.
negotiating piece
Yeah.
with the union. I just wanted to raise it because it is still a payout noted in this, and if we adjust the other policy going forward, I would like those to align.
So we would have to
Future.
negotiate that.
Yes, at a
So-
future date. Yes, I understand.
But if in some cases there may be agreements in labor contracts that are different than personnel policies, which there are some items in here that
Right.
are different in other areas.
Sure.
And so it's not common that in all cases that those align.
No, I understand that, and I know they're a union and they're able to bargain, whereas our regular employees are not, and I understand that there will be differences. It's just, and some of them are in here, like, we don't offer paid leave, and that would, for maternity and paternity care, and that would be a change. And I'm certainly in support of that, but I just wanted to call it out as a potential conversation for a later date. Again, this has already been negotiated, and we're voting on what's here, so, yeah.
But I think that's important for us to have some input before the negotiations so that we can settle on what things that we would support up front ahead of time. Like those particular kinds of changes. Because I would agree with you, I'd like to see, to the extent that we can, the same personnel policy applied to all the town's employees. Anything else, Krista?
No, that was all I had.
Anybody else?
No, I don't have any.
Ann?
I have a bunch of, so I should just qualify my remarks by saying I approach looking at these documents from both a, sort of content and, editing kind of point of view. And I had a number of like really small edits and a couple of larger ones. I feel like it's important for us to use good spelling and grammar because it's a legal document and it helps to just make sure that it's really clear. So I don't know whether you want me to go through, I know we're voting on this tonight, so I don't know if you want me to go through them all, but there's just...
Why don't you identify the packet page?
Yeah. So packet page 14, section 1, the second to last sentence, it's the Maine Labor Relations Board. I think that should be a MAINE. And page 16, paragraph 1, third sentence.
So some of those were existing language that was in the previous contract.
Oh, okay, so,
Yeah.
I mean, it
I
feels
haven't-
like that
yeah,
should
we
be
didn't-
fixed at some point.
We didn't make any change, but yeah.
Okay, and then page 16, paragraph 1, and let's see. Actually, let's skip that one. I don't think that's necessary. Page 17, Article 4. I don't know, I just felt like the first paragraph, the seventh sentence, replacing the comma after reasonable with a period and capitalizing however to make the start of a next sentence would just add clarity to that section. Probably not critical. Page 20, first, and I can send you these, Michael.
Okay, thank you.
Page 20, first paragraph, the second line. This maybe also be left, it seemed like it was leftover language. In the second line, it refers to open a new era, and I'm wondering if that's necessary, given that we've had this agreement for some time. It refers to opening a new era in, relations between the parties agree to establish and maintain a labor management relationship that will open a new era where the union, the town, the fire department, and all fire department employees shall work together to create a workforce, and so on. So I wondered whether, at some point it seems like we need to get rid of the opening a new era reference. The page 22, first paragraph, line 3, it seemed like it, deleting the second public safety department just would add clarity to that sentence. It was a little bit, it's used twice there. Page 26, section 3, last line, end of sentence. It just seemed like something was missing there, and just it kind of ends abruptly, and it seems like something else. It says the employee shall have 14 calendar days from the first attempt by the post office to deliver the certified letter to inform the town manager in writing of their intent. And I just wasn't, I thought it lacked some clarity as to what their intent to do what. Page 28, section 3, first sentence. I was curious about sort of under what circumstances the town manager might do this. It says additional, it has to do with discretionary time. Additional time off with pay may be granted in writing to any employee by the town manager at his or her discretion. And I just was sort of wondering, I mean, it seems like it could just paint the town manager into a box by not providing more clarity under what those circumstances might be. I just didn't know if that was, whether that was something you would want to clarify. Page 28, section 4, that's a minor thing, but there's, I mean, this, the second to last sentence, the your, it seemed to me should be there, THEIR. Page 31, I'm almost done.
It's okay.
Let's see. This is actually a little bit more substantive. Just help me with the math. On section 2, overtime, and again, this is page 31. So 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth sentence down, it says overtime shall be paid at the rate of 1.5 times the employee's hourly rate for all hours worked over 96 hours in a 14-day cycle. But earlier in the document, like up above under 24-hour schedule, it says that the work schedule for unit employees working 24-hour shifts shall be the 24 hours on duty and 48 hours off duty. Oh, okay, wait a minute, never mind. I just answered my own question. I wasn't reading clearly, forget about it. And then last comment, again, this is a little bit more substantive, but page 34, section 4, the first paragraph, there's lots of references to unit and to union, and I understand those are two different things, but it seems sometimes they get conflated, and that I find that confusing. And so I just wanted to flag that and make sure that that gets a careful read throughout the document, to make sure that, because there are times when it's appropriate to refer to employees that are in the union, and there are times that it's appropriate to refer to a larger group of people who comprise the unit. Is that right? The unit being the public safety department? Is that, do I have that?
I think the unit and union are interchangeable. I think it's just they don't refer to union employees. It's unit employees because they're it's a bargaining unit.
Okay, refers to bargaining unit, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And so most of these changes you've identified are all stuff that existed in the previous agreement that we didn't negotiate.
Okay,
So that's the agreement that I was given when in this position, and we negotiated the terms that the union and the town wished to address. We didn't. So previously legal counsel I'm assuming legal counsel had reviewed this prior.
Okay.
We had legal counsel review all the things that we had done. So some of that older language was just existing language that we didn't review in great detail because it wasn't being negotiated.
okay. All right, well, I mean, I'll just go ahead and send this to you. It sounds like what you're saying is there's no wiggle room in terms of making any edits to it at this point, or?
I think some of those we can make as clerical edits, and I don't think the
Okay.
union will object to them.
Okay.
But if once I'll circle back with the union once I make all the changes that you've provided, and if they don't object, then we can proceed under the agreement as proposed.
All right, that sounds good. And I think you did a great job negotiating this agreement.
Thank you.
I should have said that at the
Yeah,
outset.
same.
So mine, I totally admit to being sort of picky about some of the language, but I think, even if we think ahead to future agreements, maybe there's ways to clarify some of that stuff. But good job with this, and I totally support it.
Mike?
I've got nothing, nope.
I have some, but they're mostly informational questions, just so I understand what I'm voting on here. Hang on. Let me get back to the beginning. Okay. I'll do it that way, actually. My first question is on, in your memo, you mentioned that the money from other positions that we had budgeted is being used in this contract. How many positions?
We have 2 vacant positions.
And I'm just curious why, if we budgeted for those 2 positions, we don't need them anymore. We can take that money and turn it into wages.
No, we need them, they just haven't been filled. And so we're gonna defer filling those positions until the first of the fiscal year. Or not first of the fiscal year, the first of the calendar year. And there's enough funds available in the current budget for existing positions to fund the wage adjustments effective January 1st.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. There, in your memo, you used the word properly and reasonable appears in this a bunch of times, and that didn't feel like it was defined anywhere. Is that just a judgment call on the people who are making the decisions? Like additional training will be properly compensated, but we're allowing for training even above and beyond what's required in certain cases, up to 40 hours, which feels like a lot to me. Maybe it'd be easier if I just go through because I'll get there eventually. Like, for instance, on packet page 18, under the union rights and responsibilities, it goes, on the second line, it talks about are authorized a reasonable amount of official time away from the job to perform their duty. And I guess who gets to decide what a reasonable amount of time is?
What section are you referring to?
I'm on packet page 18,
Yep,
section 5,
okay.
the second line. So if you back up a little bit, are authorized a reasonable amount of official time away from the job to perform their representational need. And I didn't see that defined anywhere.
That's union representation. So this section of the contract, which we didn't make any changes to, was
Right.
part of the existing agreement. That allows the union membership or the union leadership time to come and meet with me to negotiate contracts or to discuss labor relations issues, and that's allowed under union rights and responsibilities.
I understand that, but who defines how much time is that? It just feels open-ended to me, so that, it just,
I think it can be open-ended just by the nature
Yeah, I
of
think
negotiation.
that's the difficulty. I come from a municipality where I worked with 5 labor contracts, and I think some of the things that you guys are struggling with are things that really are what unions do on a regular basis. So benefits or things that are different than personnel policies, that's common. Things like this where they have ability to step away from work to do union functions, that's common. I think, in the case that, if the chief found that it says the public safety chief, utilizing official time must be obtained by the public safety chief. So I think the union representatives work with the chief to schedule those meetings and best to limit the impact to the workforce. A lot of times we have meetings when they're on duty, and if we have a meeting and they get an emergency call, they go to the emergency call and we resume the meeting when we can. So I think if the chief found that the union representatives were not using the time appropriately, we would take that up with the union.
and I think, I understand that, each agreement is worked out with that particular bargaining group. So I understand that there are differences. This is the first time publicly, though, really, we're talking about the details of the contract. So
No, you guys have previously approved this collective bargaining agreement.
not this council. I mean, the council has, right? But this particular council hasn't. It has new people on it. I guess the only point I'm trying to make is, for us to have, we're just having a public discussion, that gets some of this information out into the public. It's not a complaint, or I'm not thinking that anybody did anything wrong, but this is really the first public discussion we're having about this contract since the last time the contract was negotiated. So that's, I'm not trying to, I don't know if there's a misunderstanding here, but I'm just asking clarifying questions, not only for me, but I think it's also good that we share this information publicly before we take a vote on it. so people know what we're voting on.
Sure, I'm just confused that the agreement was already in place and the town, right now, the town, whether this council voted on it or not, the town's obligated to operate under the terms of the previous agreement, whether it's expired or not. So most of these things we have to operate under. And so I'm happy to answer any questions about existing language, but a lot of this stuff has already been adopted by the town and the town is bound by. And
Up until the
I
point we
wasn't-
renegotiate the contract.
Right,
Yeah, I wasn't given any guidance from the council to renegotiate some of these basic terms of the contract.
We never had any discussion about it.
Right.
I brought to the council, I said everything else, I informed the council in executive session when we discussed wages that everything else would be remaining pretty much the same. And I let you know which items,
Okay, that got by me.
I identified what general items we were making changes to, but otherwise wages was the priority of
That
this
was
agreement.
the bulk of the conversation,
Yeah.
yeah. So these other details are things we're talking about for the first time.
Yeah, and it's a new contract, right? I mean, so that it seems like we should be able to make changes. I mean, hardly anything that we are talking about here tonight is substantive. You know, the kinds of stuff that I came up with was just cleaning up some language that maybe got by us in previous versions. But you know, it seems like if the contract is ending, then it is the right time to make some edits to it that seem, you know, reasonable at least to discuss. So and there's absolutely no, you know, criticism of you, Michael, at this point for, you know, for having brought us this
anybody, yeah.
document. I mean, that's the right thing to do. And this has been our process in the past is to look at these and offer, you know, ask questions and offer comments on clarity and things like that. So if that is uncomfortable for you in this context, then, you know, perhaps at our retreat, we can discuss a better way to approach it. But I mean, that's just kind of the way we've done in the past.
It's fine. I didn't know we would be discussing things that we didn't really negotiate. And I'm not prepared to speak on every matter. I'll do my best with my knowledge of the contract to answer any questions that I have. And if not, utilize the chief or union representation to help me if the council has more extensive questions on the contract in general.
No, I mean, I
Yeah.
think generally, I think it's really solid, and like I said, I just had some thoughts on clarity, but I tend to be a little anal that way, so I'll freely admit to that.
Yeah, I mean, I would just add all the new parts that you're presenting this evening, I'm on board with, I agree with. I think, you know, wage increases that reflect the market and the towns surrounding us and that are fair are certainly warranted. I liked the addition of the paid parental leave, especially until the time that the state implements that. Adding the Juneteenth holiday, which we recognize for other employees, makes sense. And also, I thought it was really important to have this section on lateral hiring. I think that will certainly help with recruitment.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think all the things you've negotiated are warranted and valuable. I think to Ann and Dan's point, this is just an opportunity to have a kind of fine-tune some language we might have missed in the past, and it's not a reflection on you, certainly, if you didn't even write it in the past. It's just, if it's a new contract, it would be the time to look at that language. And maybe voting on it without us having seen it before, maybe we want to step back, and if you feel like we should revisit it. I don't know if like you said, we have to honor the old contract and we sign a new one. I don't know what the timeline is for if we were to table this, if you feel like we need to look at the language outside of this vote.
Yeah, I just think, having worked in the union world, a tabling of an agreement that we've come to, that I communicated to everybody a week ago and hadn't received any feedback about, wouldn't be a good message to send to the employees
Right.
that serve the community.
Okay, yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not uncomfortable with the changes that were made, so if
Well, and I don't think we're sending a negative
Yeah.
message to anybody. That's
Yeah.
certainly not our intent.
Yeah.
Maybe we do things differently. At some level, I think that's okay. That's just an alignment piece. But I don't think anyone here, I haven't heard anyone make any comments that doesn't support this. I mean, I certainly support it. Like I said, I had some questions, things that I didn't understand. I feel a responsibility to clarify those things before I take a vote. On packet page 31, Article 14, Section 1, the hours worked. It says the regular work week for unit employees shall consist of an average of 42 hours per week. The standard workday shall consist of a 24-hour shift. And I wondered how if the average is 42, but the standard shift is 24, that's not adding up for me. So I'm sure there's something there I just don't understand.
And it's because and either the chief or the union can add, but it's because it goes over multiple pay periods.
Okay.
And so that's why the average is outlined there. So some weeks, they might work 48 hours, but other week pay periods, they might work 42. And so that's kind of why that public safety employment and public safety hours is very complicated. And this is one of the 24-hour schedule is kind of like the standard schedule
Yeah,
in
I understand that.
in fire department world, and I think at one time they may have had the 12 hours for full-time employees, but it's not attractive, and that's one of the things that makes it attractive for fire department employees to work that
Yep.
the 24-hour schedule. Chief, did you have anything more to add on the 42-week average?
Might make it simple to know that the average is 96. That's what that 96 part comes into.
Okay.
Right, that's what I was confused about, but when I read it again.
So it's over the 2 week, yeah, okay.
Yes.
That makes sense, because when you just read this particular phrase, it doesn't talk about the 96 hours. It comes in the next segment, that next bullet. Okay, thank you. On that same page, section 5, the special details.
Dan, if the union rep has
Oh.
made something you might want to add,
Yeah.
if that's all right.
Please do.
Sorry, so clarification on the 96 hours. The 96 hours is the overtime hours. So we work on average 84 hours in a 2-week period. Some weeks we may work, some pay periods we may work 3 shifts.
Yeah.
Which is, and then some we may work 5. So that's where over the 56-week average, that's where you get the 42 hours.
Gotcha.
So the 96 hours is actually overtime. The average time that we're paid is 84 hours on average.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And the 96 is, we made a tweak to that in agreement with the union from 106. But the Fair Labor Standards Act exempts public employee or public safety employees from overtime over 40 hours, like the
Right.
regular employees. So they can we could make them work more time at straight time. And that's essentially what we do. Now, it was more, we reduced it slightly based on
Right.
agreement from the union. And they work more, they work overtime at straight time before they actually hit time and a half.
Right, and this group, as you say, legally it works under a different umbrella from just about everybody else. On section 5, the special details, it says detail assignments shall be posted in advance. It goes, details will be paid an additional stipend. I couldn't find what the stipend is.
Yeah, so that's something that we've left to be determined by the chief. So in cases of details, say, I think a good example is a request for a football game. The school department requests an additional staff to be there at the football game. There's a time, an additional time factor for the employees, and there's an incentive that's added. So rather than pay them a fixed rate, we might say it's an additional $10 an hour. I think for the Blueberry Festival, we just did $15 an hour, and we'll adjust it depending on what the time frame is that detail would take place, and those costs are usually passed along to the organizer.
Yeah.
The Blueberry Festival is a bad example because the town is a partner in that, so the town absorbs that, but the details for football games or road races or things of that nature, whatever that special detail rate is billed to the organizer.
Yeah, which I bet nobody knew, so I think that's I'm glad we said that out loud. Let me see, I think I'm pretty well,
And that was one new thing we put in because it didn't exist.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that does it for me. The others are just, yep, informational things, so. I'm all set. I guess, last call, any other questions?
I think I've done enough.
Shall we go to vote then? Mike,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
and I'm also a yes.
Just a point of order question, was that including the clerical changes that Ann mentioned?
Yeah, the ones that are non-substantive.
Yeah, I
as
don't think
far as
anything she
changing
mentioned was
As far as
substantive.
changing the agreement, but
Periods.
obviously
and
punctuation and
Periods
things like
and
that. yeah.
capitalization.
Yep,
Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you very much, thanks for coming,
Appreciate
appreciate it.
Thank you both.
Yep.
Thank you, yeah.
All right, the next order of business is, let me see what I do with my notes here. Is Order 2425-10, the amendment to our committees and affiliation policy, and that motion is on packet page 40.
Are you looking for a motion to,
I was going to read it.
okay,
Oh,
yeah,
thank you. I just got,
This is an amendment that Ann's going to propose.
yeah,
well,
that I referenced earlier.
yeah, but this, we need to read, we have the motion for the whole
Right.
policy. This is just for,
This is just an amendment Ann's going to propose.
Yeah,
She's
but,
going to talk
Okay.
about it.
She
in a
wanted to
minute.
hand it out.
yeah, yeah.
All right.
Just read
Very
it,
good.
and we need to, motion second.
we typically haven't made changes this way, but we can make changes this way, if you want. Amendment to the committee and affiliations policy be ordered, the Greytown Council hereby approves the proposed changes to the committees and affiliation policies by amending the committee named library trustees and retiring the Community Economic Development Committee, the Community Television Advisory Committee, and the Board of Health. The first and final reading, October 1st, 2024. Motion.
So moved?
Ann, second.
Second, yeah.
Thank you.
You looked like you were about to say it.
Yeah, I
Motion Ann, second Michael, thank you. All right. Does anyone have any questions about the motion that's on the floor before we get going?
What do you mean, like suggested edits or?
Yeah,
just-
yep, before we take up Ann's.
I just
amendment.
had one quick thing.
Okay,
So we did amend the library trustee's name in the meat of the document, but on packet page 41, under just the committees list, it still says Library
Does, yeah.
Board of
Yeah.
Trustees.
No.
So that's just a clerical edit that I wanted to know. That was all I had. Oh,
Well, no, not, it's fixed on
On the next version.
oh, is it? Okay. I think I just have one version. Maybe I don't. I don't know. Okay. Well, if it's changed, great. If not, then
okay,
You just
thank
fix
you for
that one
catching
thing.
that.
Yeah.
That one got by me
Yeah, good.
okay.
as I was reading it.
Sharp eye.
Are there any other questions or changes about the existing? Michael?
Thank you. I just wanted to report out, you guys had asked me at the last workshop to look into a couple of these.
Yep.
One was the Recreation Committee, and Anthony had reported that they're very active and robust and that a lot's going on, and there wouldn't be any recommendation from staff or the committee to make any adjustments to that.
Uh-huh.
And then you had asked me to check into the Board of Health, and so that had been, the municipalities are granted the authority under state statute to create a Board of Health. And I think one was created under when the COVID-19 pandemic began. And right now, the code enforcement officer, who's our local health officer, primarily handles everything. So there was no need for a Board of Health. She does have local community advisors that she relies on that are health professionals. And if she thought there was a need to resurrect the Board of Health again, that she would let us know and bring that forth.
Yep,
And
always
so
do
that's
that.
why I reported out on those. And then we did, the council had reported or had proposed to eliminate the community television committee,
Yep.
and there's been some mention, and I've helped Ann craft some changes to that.
Okay. And also, so in those, the CEDC was also retired.
Yeah.
We talked about that before. And then the change to this will be obviously with the Community Television Advisory, we get to that. So we can, you want to read your, so go ahead.
Before we get to that, can I just make one note? I was also supposed to follow up with the Blueberry Festival Committee, but
Yeah.
I was absent at the last meeting. So I'm comfortable with approving this as is and maybe just revisiting that
Yeah,
conversation with them at another time.
Yep.
So-
I mean, I think there isn't this isn't a contract like the last
Right,
thing we were
exactly.
talking about, so
Yeah.
there's more flexibility here.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to
You
note
can
that
change it at any time.
yeah, I'll still plan to have that conversation with them, so,
Thank you, Krista.
yeah.
Ann, do you want to read your amendment?
Yeah, so this is for the Community Television Advisory Committee. And it,
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. I see, I thought that this was an amendment just for that, but you changed it for everything.
yeah.
Gotcha.
So it shows the changes, it shows the deletion of the,
Okay.
of the CEDC. And then the specific sort of updated proposal for CTAC is that the committee shall consist of 3 members rather than 7.
Yep,
And there was language in there that we're proposing to delete that said, that sort of delineated where, that 4 of the members, so 4 of 7 members should become, should be residents of the town of Gray, and sort of stipulated what the membership should be composed of. And we're proposing to delete that language entirely. So it's just 3 members, non-specific as to where they come from. And then I think that's it.
what's with the, oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, since you made the motion, are you all right with the amendment?
Yes, I
Second to the
am.
amendment?
Yeah.
So that was my question. So are we gonna not, we're gonna go with this? So I'm okay with this one, yes.
We're basically, what we're going to do is amend the previous amendment.
Oh,
Is how we're
yes,
gonna handle
I'm
it.
okay with that, yes.
Yeah. I didn't realize that you.
We can call that a friendly amendment.
Yes, yep, which we can do. Robert will not spin in his grave because we've done it this way.
I do have one question, though. This amendment only has this one, and where this one has all these other, well, there's.
We're
this-
gonna amend the original amendment to include what you have in your hand there.
That's all I was asking.
Yeah, that's just the community
Television.
television piece.
Right.
Okay, as long as everything else is in there, okay, all right,
Yep.
cool, got it.
Yeah, it's a little bumpy, but we'll get there. Any other questions? Can you help me understand why you're taking the residency piece out? That makes me a little uncomfortable, actually.
I mean, honestly, it's not like we have people banging the doors down from out of town or non-residents to be on our committee, so it just seemed like it wasn't necessary.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree with you there. I mean, the only committee that we currently allow other members to that I can remember is the rec committee.
Resiliency too allows. me-
Resiliency too, because of those overlaps and changes. But as a rule, at the beginning of the committee policy, It does say.
It says they must be a
It
resident.
says they must be a resident, so.
That's a rule for all the committees, so it's not, it doesn't apply specifically to
Right, I
that committee.
think there's other committees where we don't call, like Dry Mills Schoolhouse doesn't call it out as a resident because the overarching rule
Yeah.
is at the top.
Right, it doesn't have
it's
to,
covered.
because that rule applies to all. So it feels like there's a conflict there that we need to resolve.
Well, I
All
think-
that change did was make it consistent with how the other committees
Right,
are
I think
structured.
by what she's deleted, it just implies that it will be residents from Gray. Is that?
Yeah.
Is that because of the overarching?
Okay.
Yeah,
I-
it just,
I thought you were trying to change that. Gotcha.
No.
All right. That answers my question then.
Yeah, it had a thing that said, 4 of whom shall be residents of the town of Gray, so it was basically saying 3 of them could not be residents.
Right.
And then it said, other members may include representatives, and it lists some different organizations. So this just structures it like the other committees are structured, where it's assumed they're residents, and you won't accept an application from a non-resident.
But I'm just seeing this now for the last 10 minutes, so I haven't had an opportunity to digest that. So you're all right with the changes to the amendment?
Yes, sir.
So we can move forward with this by removing the Community Television Advisory Committee from the list of committees that we were going to retire, with the additional changes as outlined in Ann's amendment. Everybody all right with that?
yep,
Okay.
Yes.
We'll go to a vote. Ann?
yes.
Krista?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes. The motion carries. All right. There's no one left for public comment. We have no referrals. We have, Mike mentioned on the 15th is our next council meeting. The retreat is still planned for the 29th. Have we received the agendas for that yet?
We haven't yet.
Okay.
No, he's updated me, he's still working on them.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss that.
You didn't.
And we do not have an executive session tonight, so I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion.
Second.
So moved. All in favor? We'll do it that way.
Yes.
Something
Yes.
different.
Yep.
There we go.
Yes.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks.